going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank Donna for coming this morning. I don't know if y'all know Donna, but she used to work as part of the program management team a few years back. And so she's an Arcadis staff member.
Yep.
And she is the communications person for Arcadis. So we welcomed her, and this is going to be a fun, open communication session. So I'll give it over to Donna.
You got it.
She's got a detailed agenda she's going to go through.
Yep.
And yep, just feel free to be interactive, and we're going to have an open discussion today. So, all right.
Thank you so much, Michael. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Donna Adamo, and James Hudgens is responsible for bringing me down to Atlanta from New York, which was a little bit of an adjustment for me 12 years ago. And I worked downstairs for 5 or 6 years, and now I coach teams as we work with clients. I am excited to be here. I did this presentation about 8 or 9 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, but a lot's changed. 2 main things: ChatGPT, social media, and COVID. So we want to talk about what that's done to us as humans and how it's changed the way that we communicate with each other. Today's presentation and workshop is going to be interactive. I've left 30 minutes at the end for anything you want to talk about. As well as I want to make it clear, I don't, other than working with Janice and Jane and Karen, I don't know many of you in this room. None of this is geared toward anyone in specific. Diane, because I don't know you. So if you hear something and you're thinking, is she saying that because of me? No. You know that about yourself. And the important thing about today that I want to make clear is each one of you will take away something different that is important to you. And it's the right thing that you should take away. So don't feel like, well, that doesn't really pertain to me. That's okay, it does pertain to someone else. The goal is, hopefully at the end at noon, and there's food here, we're going to take a 5-minute break in a little bit. The goal at the end is for you to just think about what your job is when it comes to communications. So what I want to do first is get a raise of hands of how many of you took a communications class in grammar school or high school. So they taught you how to talk to each other and how to speak and how to efficiently communicate important information. That's good. Now that, welcome gentlemen, we've got a seat here and a seat here. The first thing I want to do is make sure that everybody has a green and a pink piece of paper. And our first part of the workshop is to show you kind of where we are. What I'm going to do is give all of you a list of instructions. None of them are to trip you up. This is simple, easy, fun stuff. Give you a list of instructions of what to do with the green piece of paper. And I'm going to speak to you just as if you and I were having a conversation downstairs in the break room. Okay, so if everybody could pick up their green piece of paper, and here we go. Take the piece of paper and fold it in half, and then I'd like you to tear the lower right corner of the paper and then fold it once again before you tear off the upper left corner of the paper. And if you could fold it one more time in half again and tear off the upper right corner of the paper before folding it again. And then all you need to do is tear the lower right corner of the paper.
Wait, huh?
That's how we have conversations. That's how we have conversations, and we just expect people to understand what we said because I told you. Didn't I tell you? So I'd like everybody to take that piece of paper and hold it up in the air. Everybody hold it high like you are loud and proud. Gorgeous. I love it. All right. Now I want everybody to take the pink piece of paper. I'd like you to hold this piece of paper horizontally and using your left hand fold it in half so that it looks like a book. I then want you to take the top of the paper and fold it down one more time so it looks like a little card. And then if everyone could just tear off the 4 corners. If everyone could open up your paper and hold it up in the room. Michael, I want you to look around the room, and I want you to see that everyone has the same piece of paper. The first time I gave you 7 instructions, as if we were talking in the break room, because that's how we as humans talk, right? We don't ask each other to slow down. We're just like, yeah, really? Wow. Okay, great. But we don't hear half of what we're told. It's too much information to take in. But this time, everybody got it right with just a list of 4 instructions. I slowed down to 65 words per minute, and I just gave you a list of 4 pieces of instructions that you could handle. So I want you to think of the first color, green, is where we are today. The pink is where I would like to be when we're done. So as we move forward now, let's take a look at what we're going to talk about. So communication to each one of us is personal. Nobody really teaches us how to communicate. No one, unless we end up in therapy, couples therapy, teenagers, we have teenagers, and you really know you're not a good communicator because they already know everything. I know I raised 2. One works at the British Embassy, though I don't know what she does, and the other is operations manager for a coffee company. So how is communications part of the program here at Cobb DOT? How is it part of your own value system? And then what form of communication best leads to success? I am not here to tell you what to do. We're all grown adults. I am here to tell you what works and hope that you take away with you some different thoughts as you navigate and walk the walls of the DOT, as well as work with commissioners and communities. So here's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. That good communications is good for business at Cobb DOT. What is your style? Why does it matter? And if you don't know what your style is, I'm going to tell you how you find out. How we handle smart, effective emails, and I'll give you some guidelines, and there will be a leave behind that Karen has that any of you can ask for, as well as this will be on the server if there's any part of this you want to reference to for your own attention. We'll talk briefly about open records, how to have the best meeting in the whole world, 5 easy steps to conflict resolution, and then we'll talk about communications and body language, followed by Q&A. Any issues you may have had, any questions you may have had, be respectful of others, and let's get the work done at the end. So today our focus is going to be on communications, conversations, challenges, and football. Right? Who doesn't love football down in the South, for sure? So skill number 1, let's talk about good communications being good business. None of us think of communications as a skill, but it really is a skill in the sense of poor communication can cost the Cobb DOT, can cost a pharmaceutical company, a hospital, a football team. It can cost them a lot of money. Misunderstandings cost U.S. companies billions every year. How do you say? Well, you probably know in your own project scope work where miscommunication, you think somebody told somebody something, or you didn't quite understand what you were supposed to do, or maybe a community didn't get maybe what they needed, and a project got out of scope and budget. Lawsuits, errors, and omissions. Employees who are not happy and leave because they heard something and their perception of what was said was directed at them, and maybe they felt, hey, it's time for me to go. So if we think about it, transportation is a business. No different than academics, no different than football, no different than the pharmaceutical world. Your industry is a business. And having clear, crisp communication skills and knowing your lane and your style and someone else's style is critical to the success of the program. Take a moment so you can read that. So currently, Cortex says 57% of projects fail due to breakdown in communications. I think we all know that's probably true. It doesn't mean the entire project fails, but from time to time, well, I know I told her, well, you never told me, but I did put it in an email. was it 6 inches down into the email, or did you not spell it out for me? We're humans. You know, people call this a soft skill. It's honestly a people skill. And when we start communications, we are exposed to failure because my opinion isn't yours and what I hear may not be what you hear. So one of the things I learned when I started working at the Cobb DOT, I knew nothing about project management. To me, something that was like 12 7/8 inches is 13 inches. But according to James Hudgens, no, it's 12 7/8 inches. People could die on the 13th inch, so I had a lot to learn. And I'm really impressed with what all of you do. I've been with Arcata since 2012. I work with teams all across the country. I've learned a lot about soil nails, bridge replacements, design build, progressive alternative delivery. I've learned a lot about a lot, and I'm going to stick with words. Traffic signaling, but what you do is impressive, and it is very complex. And I don't want to lose sight of you understanding, maybe you think my world is simple. It is just as hard for me to come into your world as it is for your brain that is more linear, math and science, to come into the human element of understanding how to make a project work better, how to make a team work more efficiently. So let's take a look. What impresses me most when I sat down and thought about all the things that I see program managers, project managers, design build, architectural people do is that your work is highly transactional. It's also highly intelligent. There's oftentimes I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm better than I was 12 years ago, but it is very difficult when you are not in physics, math, and science. Many times your projects and your teamwork follow a process that needs to be transparent, clear, and concise, especially when you're dealing with SPLOST money, public money, communities, commissioners, FOIL requests. So I understand the gravity of what's in an email has to be correct and why it matters that something is 12 7/8 inch. The collaborative effort that is necessary to make Windy Hill happen, to make just a lot of different projects that you have, SR 400, whatever it is that you also have currently now. I know the city of Smyrna is doing Windy Hill. It looks completely different than when I drove down it. Like I lost where I was for a moment because there's new buildings there as well. It's really nice to see the buildup in Cobb County. You have high risk to a lot of your projects. And I want you to know that I understand that. I see it every day. So the decisions that you make have to be a series of right decisions every day. And the minute you take your foot off the gas on one of those decisions could cost a life. And that is really important, especially with traffic signaling and doing just different kinds of detours that citizens have to walk across. From time to time as well. So those moving parts matter. The skill that you have in learning communications, though, is necessary for program growth and for individual growth and team growth, and it is needed for success. So as I take a look at a lot of the different things that all of you have going on in your head, in your linear side of your head, on the left brain, it's just a lot of juggling of balls daily when it comes to project work that you're doing. And really understanding the utility issues that can really crank up a project or hold back a project, right of way, Janice's work, Diane's work trying to get billability done and make sure that she has the Excel spreadsheets that, I mean, when I first started here, I couldn't function without Diane. I didn't know what I was doing. Nobody sat me down and taught me program management, and I'm trying to do communications, and without the ability to be able to go to her or Janice and think I have no idea what they're talking about. I learned that BAR, I heard that word for quite some time, didn't know what it was till I finally asked, and I think it was Hudgens told me a BAR is a big ASS rock. So some of it was They were talking about moving a BAR, but I didn't know that that's what it was. So I just want to make it clear I do understand the gravity of what you do. So let's talk about what I do and what you can do better as humans, as husbands, wives, partners, parents, employees, project managers, scientists, traffic signalers, and where we can get it better and do it better. So communication really is the hardest thing we do in life, and no one really teaches us. We learn on the playground, we may take a debate class, we may take a writing class, but no one really teaches us the skills that it takes to connect and build trust bridges with others so they will come to us with problems and so we can go to them with problems. So not only is it the hardest thing we do in life, but we have to do it from birth until death. So we bring a little baby home, this foreigner from the hospital. We have no idea what they want. They don't know us. We don't know them. All we know is they're going to keep us all night long, and they're always hungry. As well as our aging parents who maybe have dementia, Alzheimer's, physical issues. Maybe they can't hear like my mother, and you have to physically look at her face when you are speaking to her and sometimes write it down. We are always trying to find ways to communicate with each other and build trust bridges. So if you think about it, communication is to relationships what air is to the body. And all of us have the responsibility to level up and do better and to teach us so that we can learn as we go what people need so that they can effectively do their jobs. The words that we use are powerful. You can see on the screen here, they build and destroy relationships. If you think about what little words it takes, think of the word guilty, not guilty. Think of the word I do, the words I do, and how that changed your life. So we don't need a lot. Sometimes we're going to get it wrong, and sometimes we need the right words to either defend a position of why we have to take someone's right away, or to change a position of how we can get someone to understand that we can't maybe do their pavement this week in their neighborhood, but we can try and get to it in a couple of weeks due to rain as we work with our citizens. Does anyone know, and I'm going to pick names here, the most powerful word in the world?
Yes.
Yes? Anna? I. Okay. Janice?
Yes.
Yes? No. The most powerful, all great answers, is a person's name. How many times have you been in a store and you heard Mom? Right? Dad. It's such an identity thing for us that I want you to realize the power when you go to Michael of his name. Hi, Michael. It's great to see you. Instead of just, hey. If you're in a room with someone, you don't say her. You say Diane. So if you're in a room with your spouse or your teenager and you're speaking of them kindly, of course, always, we want to say their name, not her, him. It's a skill that we learn that makes that other person feel trusted in your presence, connected in your presence. So if you go to someone's office, hey, Janice, I want to go over a couple of right-of-way issues with you. She should say, great, Donna. Does 10 o'clock work for you? This is something we've lost due to COVID. More on that in a moment. The only thing more powerful than words, when we feel we can say nothing, when we feel how we feel doesn't even matter, when we just shut down, don't care, check out, are annoyed, just see you later. Peace. Drop the mic, I'm done. Nothing moves forward. No narrative ever moves forward. But in your world, in the transportation industry, silence can really wreak havoc. Let's take a look at how briefly. And we're going to start with late Tuesday morning in 1986.
Minus 15 seconds. Nine, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine 95% free engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles. Downrange distance 3 nautical miles. Engine throttling up. 3 engines now at 104%. Challenger, go with throttle up. Challenger, go with throttle up. Minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
How many in the room remember this moment or have learned about it since? Some of you may have even been in school. This moment teaches us a lot. And you may not think that it has anything to do with transportation, but let me show you how. Roger Bourgeois was an MTI rocket engineer who first found abnormalities in the O-ring of the rocket ship in 1984, which is 2 years before the Challenger throttled up. He filed a report, which back then was in a letter memo form. Today we do email, just as you would. He found more leaks in January of 1985, and a task force was formed in 1985. In his memo, which today would be an email, he clearly said he wanted to ensure management that they were fully aware of the seriousness of the current O-ring erosion problem. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a scientist. I don't want to go on that. The mistakenly accepted position is to fly without fear of failure. This position has drastically changed. What are we doing? The result would be a catastrophe of the highest order, loss of human life. Again, in one memo. It is my honest and very real fear that if we do not take immediate action, we stand in jeopardy. This is an engineer going to higher management and saying, Mayday, we have a problem. For 2 years. Because he could see what could happen. However, the night before the launch, which was going to be one of the coldest days of the year, they held a teleconference because it was going to be one of the coldest days. They were going through a cold snap, and they had already canceled 3 or 4 times. The media was coming. If you remember, Krista McAuliffe, the school teacher, was going to be on this. President Reagan at the time, for those of you who are babies, he was going to go on the air that night, and we were going to announce this great new space program with a real human being, a school teacher, all these school children watching. It had already been canceled. They were talking about how the seals would leak gas in cold temperatures. Bourgeois' boss, R.K. Lund, who was MTI's VP of engineering, agreed until they went behind closed doors and talked to NASA. And NASA's like, look, we got to do it, dude. Like, we've already canceled. It's going to be fine. We believe it's going to work. And they believed, quote, that the burden of proof was on the risk, not on the safety, and that they hadn't proved that there was enough risk that the rocket couldn't go up the next day. So on the morning, it was 29 degrees, 30 degrees lower than any prior launch. There were no seats left for Roger Bourgeois and his 2 other colleagues to sit, so they sat on the floor right here. They didn't want to watch this rocket because they just had a bad feeling that something was going to happen. Management expected the O-rings to seal. Bourgeois and his team did not. And as we know, as you saw in the video, they did not. The Challenger cabin did not blow up. Instead, it went up 65,000 feet before it took 3 minutes to hit the water at 200 miles an hour. And as we know, it had a catastrophic outcome, costing the lives of all 7 astronauts. Here's what's interesting. Not one of these astronauts knew that there was a problem with the O-rings. They never knew. It was never disclosed by management. There was no transparency about that. In comes Richard Feynman, a very fine, skilled communicator and engineer who sat on top of the Rogers Commission report where he was in charge of finding out what happened. And here's what he found out, and here's how it applies to all of you. There are deficiencies in NASA's management, scientific understanding, and communications. NASA believed there was a 1 in 100,000 chance that the O-rings wouldn't seal. Bourget-Lee believed there was a 1 in 100, but meanwhile, the Rogers Commission said there was only a 1 in 50 chance. Now, I don't know about you, but if there's a 1 in 50 chance that my brakes aren't going to work on my car today, going to the airport, I am not taking that car. So we had our scientists, our astronauts, go on this Challenger not being aware of the risk, believing that it was safe. And meanwhile, people were believing what their hat wanted them to believe, because everybody had their own interest. NASA had its, MTI had its, the astronauts had theirs, the public had theirs, the media had theirs. And the Rogers Commission found the lack of communication and understanding between managers and engineers was at the center point of this catastrophe. And here is what the Rogers Presidential Commission report showed us. It is difficult to send bad news up. I'm sure some of you have been in that position. You have to figure out the words to say. The way we're doing it isn't going to work. Mayday. Maybe not to this, and hopefully never to this catastrophic level. But these are those small decisions that all of you make every day that impact the safety of a community. Whether it's a four-way stop, whether it's an intersection, traffic signaling, widening a road or a bridge. It is often difficult for decision makers to receive bad news. So if you've got to go to Michael Francis or Drew or Jonathan or Hudge or Brooke with bad news, are they in a place right then in that moment to receive that news? And should you be delivering it at that moment? So for this, everybody had the same education, the same background, the same facts, but their goals were not aligned, and their communication was poor. They spoke the same language, but they all came from different perceptions. And communications is a lot about my perceptions, your perceptions, each one of us. Which is why when we say, but I know I told them, that does not mean they heard what you said. So that's one area that we want to think about as we move forward. So you say in this room, well, Dee, why should I care? Because the Rogers Commission decided that studying this catastrophic event shows the importance of good communications in everyday decision making. And that does fall on each of us individually when we work in the world of transportation where there's always moving parts, rail, planes, trains, and automobiles, right? We're just trying to get people where they need to go safely and alive, whether it's walking across the street or going to the airport. If anybody needs to take a break right now, I want you to feel free to come up and get some food. I'm going to keep going. If you need to go to the bathroom, all I ask is that you keep your phones down during this training. So if you want to take your 5 minutes and grab something to eat, doesn't bother me. I'm going to continue to move forward because I want to make sure that we have time for us to discuss any issues that you may have. So the first skill we discussed is understanding transportation as a business, and good communications is necessary for this business to thrive and grow. Now we want to talk about skill number 2 is knowing your communication style and why it matters. And a lot of people will say communications is a soft skill. Like it's so soft, like a little kitty knitting a blanket. When actually, you know, yeah, this isn't physics, but communications is hard work. Dealing with people is hard work. I know, because I've watched some of you do it. I've watched Karen Matthews handle some public meetings like a pro, because she can go to the perception of where that person is coming from. And it is all of our job. So we're going to go over email skills in a few moments, but first you need to understand why you do what you do and why someone received something in a way that wasn't intended of when you did it. So this is going to be the meat right now of what I hope everyone takes away, what we're going to go through before we get to emails. So we have everybody in this room, you're all at a different part in your career. Some of you may be executive leadership, functional leadership, whatever it is. As you grow in your career, your toolbox gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So Brooke, your toolbox, your first year as an engineer is very different in communications than it is today, right? You've learned how to manage people, handle people, you've learned how to communicate better. Would you agree? Hutch, would you agree? Karen, what are your thoughts?
Totally agree.
Okay. So my goal is to make your communication box a little bit bigger today. The first thing we have to do is figure out what is your style. I don't want anybody to get scared by this. This is not, if you are aggressive, if you are passive aggressive, nobody's telling on you. Each of you have to look at this and know what is your style. Mine is assertive. I'm assertive. I work in basically a man's world. I'm flying a lot. I've got 2 kids in 2 different cities, and I'm always on the go. And I'm short, and I feel in working in a very heavily male-oriented field where I go that I need to communicate quickly and briefly, because I'm happy to give them 13 words for every 1 word they say, which is a fact. For every 1 word a male says, according to Nielsen research, women say 13. And we're fine with that, because we have a lot to say, and we want to take up space. So as you think about what is my communication style, own it, but I want you to understand not everyone can deal with it. So let's take a look at some of these. A passive person usually is introverted, maybe has a little bit of anxiety. They're a little bit more indirect and apologetic. They feel maybe that their voice doesn't count, and they're unsure of how to respond maybe to others, so they'll stay on the side of safety because they don't want to rock the boat. Aggressive people, we all know who they are. They just say what they feel, and they fill the room with that. And they're very expressive. Maybe it's a one-way communication. They don't really want your opinion. They just want to give you theirs. And listen, there's a place for people like this. We need them in business because they get things done and they don't take things personally. They're a lot of doers. They don't always consider, though, the message or the audience, and sometimes their straightforwardness can be very intimidating and scary to some of us, and we're just going to kind of back away. And we're just going to kind of go over here, and we're going to go take a meeting, because we may not be able to deal with their personality style. Passive-aggressive, according to Nielsen research and communication modeling, is the most difficult personality style to be able to work with, because what they say is not always what they feel. And we all know someone like that in life, where through certain things that have happened in life, they're just not safe with their feelings, or they're maybe a little more manipulative. So these are the 4 personality styles according to modeling. And I am the assertive style. Tell me what I need to do. I'm going to try and get it done under deadline. You know, if I have to move you out of my way a little bit to get it done, I got a plane to catch at 2 because I got to be someplace, or you know, I got a sick child at home, or whatever it may be. I'm going to be the person that you want to give the task to that's going to try to get it done by 5 o'clock today, because I know that that citizen is waiting for an answer. So these are the 4 personality styles. Which are you? And again, you'll have this PowerPoint if you want to do a deep dive on your own in your personal space. If you don't know what communication style you are, I guarantee you your colleagues and your family do. Just ask. It is important to know, because that's what you present to the world. That's what you present in your emails. That's what you present in a one-on-one meeting or a face-to-face meeting. So it's just important. You don't need to change it. I'm not here to tell you to change. I'm here to tell you to grow. So let's take a look. Your communication style does matter, because it pretty much dictates how you are going to communicate with others and their ability or inability to handle you. And I hope you don't mind me using you, Mike, but if I have to come to Michael with something, and I'm not sure how he's going to take it, I have to pick my moment where I can handle his response. And this is the stuff no one teaches us. If I have to come to Diane, but I see she's super busy, or I know James Hudgens is running out the door, is that the moment I'm going to communicate bringing bad news up? Or am I going to pause for a moment and think, hey, you know what? I know their communication style, and I need to pick my moment because I'm aggressive, they're aggressive, and this is not going to go well at 4:45. So maybe this is something we can pick up at 8:30 tomorrow morning when we're not feeling so aggressive. This is what we need to own as communicators. So as we move forward, I want everyone to think of how complicated communication is. So engineering in a way, design build in a way, you have software you use for designing things, for building bridges, for widening roads, right? It's pretty black and white. When it comes to electrical, if this light doesn't go on, we flip the switch to turn it on. If the switch doesn't work, if the light doesn't go on after we flip the switch, we call an electrician. They come in, they look behind the wall, behind the ceiling, and they fix it. Communications doesn't work like that. You can't see behind my wall. You can't get into my head. So that's why communications isn't a soft skill. There's nothing soft about it. It's dealing with people. It's dealing with ticking people off or building trust bridges that win them over. And we do this all day, all night in our line of work. Additionally, we have this conscientious communication where we feel this way to the world, but let's be honest. We all know there's a deeper side of us when we get in our car if we've had a bad day. We all know, I'm not going to the office ever again. I hate my life, and COVID made it worse, like level 10 worse. And we all have our own biases on the bottom that make it hard to deal with citizens who don't agree with us, make it hard to deal with a commissioner, or maybe someone in authority who doesn't share our viewpoints, or someone we had a bad experience with before. Believe it or not, everything I've just showed you goes into every email you write, every conversation you have. That's why owning who you are, whether it's at home with your teenager, with your spouse, with your partner, with a colleague, is super important. So here's where the cloud of COVID has really impacted us. There's currently a study going on at the University of Alabama at Birmingham where they're seeing huge interpersonal fallout from COVID. And you can see what I have on the screen here, but I'm just going to give it to you straight, because when you read the beginning of the research, it's actually interesting. We just don't like each other anymore. Like, I'm so annoyed by you. You just annoy me, I annoy myself. I wake up every day and I'm already annoyed because I just spent 2.5 years living with myself and I'm the most annoying person I know. And now I got to deal with you. And COVID made us inept in dealing with our emotions because we were all struggling to survive. We were watching people pass. We were isolated, we were scared, we were confused. We'd never been through this before. Well, you know what? All your citizens, your commissioners, leadership in Cobb County have gone through the same thing. We're all still emerging from the cloud of what COVID did to us as human beings. And many of us have children who didn't get the college experience we hoped to pay for. They didn't get the college experience we had. They didn't get the first job we had. Everything was online, remote. What they got was, yeah. Sure. That's what we have now. So we have to learn to deal with that and have a capacity to understand. We don't always have to get it right, but we do have to figure it out. Then we went into safety mode where we were all able to hide behind a computer and work together and read a script and not have to deal with each other and see all the body language face to face. And body language is a language. We all know that, don't we? Like the 4-letter word fine. Are you fine? Brooke, are you fine? I'm fine. D, you doing good? Yeah, I'm fine. It's fine. And then there's, no, I'm fine. Honestly, everything's fine. That would be Janice, because she's so sweet, right? Am I right? She's very sweet. Others are like, fine. What you got to say for yourself? Like, so we just need to be more emotionally intelligent post-COVID to really understand that we're still going through this post-COVID stress. I want to go to the sixth person in the room, and if I could have Janice come up with me. If you could please volunteer, thank you. No speaking part. You have a standing part. So the sixth, if you remember anything from today, how many have teenagers in this room? I love it. I want you to remember this, okay? Every time Janice and I have a conversation, every time you have a conversation with your teenager or your significant other, there are 6 people in that conversation. 6. I know who I am. Janice knows who Janice is. You would say you know who you are, right, Janice?
Most days.
Most days, right? I know who Janice is. She's the queen of right away. She's the queen. She'll be honest with you. If you come to her with a problem, she will do whatever she can to help you find it, but she will want you ultimately to learn the solution so that we do it right the first time, always. That's Janice. Janice knows Donna. We worked together 4, 5, 6 years. I had a lot to learn about program management. Janice was very patient. She knows I'm a good communicator. Would you say that, Janice?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So those are 4 people. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 5th. Don't go away yet. It's the 5th and the 6th person that wreak havoc, that cause wars, that cause people to quit, that cause parents not to speak to their teenagers because we know they already know everything. It causes people to get divorced. It causes friends to not speak to each other anymore. Who is it? Who is the 5th and the 6th person? The 5th person is how Janice thinks Donna sees her. How does she think I see her? And do I see her that way? And the 6th person is how I think Janice sees me. Does she respect me? Does she think I do my research and I know what I'm talking about? I have to understand how she sees me before I ever send her an email, before I ever go into a meeting with her. I have to bring teeth to that. I have to kind of think about what is she going to expect from me, and will I be prepared? Because I want her to think highly of me. So let's just go over that one more time. 5th and 6th person is how we think each other sees us. You can sit down now, Janice. Thank you, dear. How many times have you heard, who does she think she is? Doesn't he know who I am? If you've ever thought that or said that, that's the 5th and 6th person in the room. That person didn't see you for who you are. You were not seen. They were not seen. And that's what causes a divide, and often ego gets in the way, and we don't even know we're doing it. So if you take anything away from today, please, in your interpersonal relationships, as well as working with citizens, how does that person, am I aware of how that person sees me in this moment? Do they trust me? Do they like me? Do I have the information they need? And if they're not in a good space to see me, you didn't pick the right moment. So just picking the right moment and making sure you have the emotional intelligence for the 5th and 6th person in the room. Because that's where friendships end. That's where colleagues leave, because they don't feel seen. Skill number 3 is your guide to effective emails. So by the time you read that sentence, 30 million have already been sent. Email was originally started to keep us connected. And what it's done is it's connected us so much 24/7 around the world that you can never get away from your phone, and someone always knows where to find you. You didn't pick up your phone, I called you. What happened? Right? And now we feel haunted by people wanting us 24/7. It's a lot to take in all the time. So the very thing that was meant to connect us when we can't be together now never leaves us alone. And often we get it wrong. Because what email was intended for is no longer what we use it for. We now use email to check a bunch of boxes. Up, got that off my plate. Up, got that off my plate. Now it's her problem. Now it's her problem. Now it's her problem. Now it's his problem. And meanwhile, how many inboxes do you have, Jane, waiting for you at noon? 50?
A few.
Right? And we can't get away from it. And then we're just trying to fire off a bunch of information. It honestly is not an effective way to communicate with a human being. It is an effective way to communicate when you have to lob off information. Let me show you how to do it most efficiently. This is what everybody is going. Karen has this one slide. Anybody who wants it, I encourage you to put it on your computer and look at it every now and then. And I do want to take a few minutes to go over what this says. So standard email practice across the board is, I want everybody to ask themselves first, is this even an email? Can I just walk over to Brooke and have a 2-second conversation with him instead of sending this email? If you can, come on, man. We all need the exercise anyway, and we need the human connection. So instead of sending you an email, that maybe if I've thought for 1 second, you know what, this doesn't need to be an email. I'm just going to go over and give her this information. You'll be happy that I stopped by. Even if it's just a, hey, letting you know. Doesn't need to be an email. Then when you do send that email, if you got to include more than one person, you need to do the work. You need to think, do I need to put weight on this? Is this something he really needs to know, or am I doing a CIA moment, or am I just lobbing a list? That's not what email was for, and we've gotten in the bad habit of using it to just throw a bunch of people's names on there, but half the people don't know what to do with what you've just sent me. And what we're doing is we're loading up a lot of people's emails, and here's the problem. You have a lot of people who work in the field, do you not? How many times are they taking out your, I love that song, how many times are you taking out your phone in the field and you've got 26 emails? And what happens when you're doing that? I'm just going to use this for 1 second. I won't open it up. You're out in the field getting out of a truck near a road looking at emails. So think to yourself, does this field person really need an extra email? If the answer is no, don't add him on the list. If Hutch doesn't need to know something, don't add him on the list. If he's told you he needs to know, if Anna or Russ have told you they need to know, yes, by all means. They're waiting for that information. So first do the work and determine who needs to know. And then think, am I educating, motivating, or inspiring? Is this a witchy email? Because if it is, I'm not going to send it. Email is not there to vent, people. It's not. And we got to watch the tone. Because how you wrote it is not going to be how I read it. I can guarantee you that. So if it isn't loaded with syrup and sunshine, educating, motivating, and inspiring, you do not need to send that email. If I have a problem and I want to, Jane, hey, do you have a few minutes to talk about something? I was going to send you an email, but you know what? I'd rather talk to you in person. Can you give me 5? If now isn't good, what time can I come back? That's what we should be doing. Not just lobbing off emails where we all get inundated. And keep it simple. The goal is, the rule of thumb through all the research, the human mind can't handle more than 3 thought bubbles in an email. 3. I even wrote an email after this to show you how simple it could be. And then always standard practice, hi Michael, because it's the most important word in the world, regards DA. That's it. Next, your content. Write a decisive subject line. Not FYI. A decisive subject line. Need your timesheet by 2:15. I'll be waiting for it. You know that person's going to open that email. Contractor is meeting me at 2. I need your help. HELP! Exclamation point. You know that Wade's going to open that. So make your subject line, it should be the best part of your email. So I know why you're coming at me. I don't want junk emails. I'm half the time on a plane. Many of you are in the field or you're working with a commissioner. 5 W's is all that should be in your email. Again, it's used for business purposes. Who, what, where, when, why. Everybody say it together. Who, what, where, when, why. Chef's kiss for an email. Sweet and simple. Then you put 2. You've already decided who needs to know. Let's say, for example, it's going to be Michael and Jane. But CC, I want Wade and Hudge to know because they've asked me to tell them, so I'm going to CC them. But the most important people are in the 2. The CC is who additionally do I want to know this action or this email. Not 15 people to CYA or just because I don't know who needs it. I don't want to make that decision because I don't want to think. I don't want to take the time to think. That's what we do. Now, I don't know anybody in this room, your habits. This is what we all live with. And then the BCC, you know, I always tell people as a communications expert, be careful with the BCC because now you've lost transparency. Would the 2 or the CC want to know who's on this? Probably. So if we're going to promote transparency, I think we should find a way to judiciously use BCC. Maybe legal needs to be in the loop, but then why wouldn't they just be on the CC? It's just something I want everyone to think about, especially when it comes to FOIL, because all emails are documents that can be in a court of law, especially in a government agency in the state of Georgia. Make sure you take a proof at all your attachments. I can't tell you how many times I'll get a family picture. Don't think you meant to send, very cute, but don't think you meant to. Just take a look at your attachments. And Karen, I almost sent you the old version of this, which is why I'm glad I proofed it. And then make sure you proofread your content. You know, do it once or twice over. And don't do it if you're hungry, tiffed, or just kind of, you know, feeling grumpy that day. It's not the moment to proofread. These are the things I want you to stop and avoid. Reply all at all costs, unless you all know it's the holidays and, you know, maybe management is sending you all, you know, like a greeting card. Okay. But then the minute you start to hit reply all, now everybody's getting your thank you, thank you, thank you, and you know we are now annoyed. So for all of you, I stay away from the reply all, because usually it just can be very annoying. Do not send an email when you're angry, annoyed, or antagonistic. It shows, it feels, we feel it. We don't know why you're mad at us, and now we're scared. And we know you're mad at us. All caps. Subjective humor, we can let that go. Emojis, gossip, negative comments. Again, FOIL. Again, human beings. If it isn't going to educate, motivate, and inspire, you do not need to send an email. If you're annoyed with someone, you need to go talk to them. And lastly, these are some do's for all of you. Keep in mind, and Hudgens, I think, is the king of this. Thank you for listening to me 10 years ago. It doesn't matter what I send him. He will always do RT. Received. Confirmed. Always. And you should too. Just to, you know, and maybe your initial, received, RT, DA, confirmed, DA. Just so that, especially if it's something important. Please make your emails mobile friendly. That's why I'm trying to tell you to go with 3 lines of thought. Many of us work off our phones now and we aren't thinking that when you sent me the 16-line email on my phone with an attachment, I'm about ready to, thank you for leaving this here, I'm about ready to, right, go crazy because we can't leave home without it, though I came on this trip without my personal phone because I left it on the kitchen table. So I'm kind of feeling like left-handed, upside down and backwards. But just think about that for our people out in the field who are looking at emails while they're working near traffic. Maybe take them off the CC. Additionally, consider culture differences. You may use some subjective humor, but maybe a culture isn't going to understand what does that even mean. I have a girlfriend who's been here for 10 years. She's from Lebanon. She was having a holiday party last year, and I told her I would bring my caboose to the party. And her husband, who's a very good friend of mine, was telling me at the party she didn't understand why you were taking the train from Utica to Syracuse if you have a car, because I said I was bringing my caboose. And she took it literally. So for all of us who work with different cultures, you can't think, well, they should just know. We don't know. None of us know. And men and women speak different languages. And communications people and engineers speak different languages, clear and concise. Always reply within 24 hours. It's just a good habit to get into, even if it's RT, or you can say, hey, don't have the answer to this. I will try to get it tomorrow by 5. RTDA. I would say to citizens, maybe it's just what Faye DeMassimo taught me here. Get back to them ASAP, even if you don't have the answer. I received your email. Thank you for sharing your concerns with me. I will look into this and try to get back to you tomorrow by 4. And then you flag it so you remember to do that. And then remember again that your content is subject to FOIL, if and when. So how do we do this? Let's just quickly look at this. You got to know who is your audience. Who am I speaking to? You made that decision in the 2. Is it management? Is it leadership? Is it citizens? Because they are not the same. So who's my audience? What message will make sense to Brooke Martin coming from Donna Adamo? I shouldn't be sending him something he doesn't expect. None of you should be sending an email to someone that they don't expect. The content of it they don't expect. You should only be sending emails to people, information that is in their wheelhouse, their lane, or their expectation. Otherwise, you go to Anna and you say, hey, Anna, I'm going to be sending you an email. It's going to deal with this, just so you know it's coming. Now she knows to look for it and she can respond, and that task is off everybody's plate instead of loading up an email. Who, what, where, when, why, and then decide, is this really a walk-by? Should I be walking by her office and talking to her? Or is she going to want an email because her door is closed, but I have to get her this information? So be judicious. And I know that this well, Donna, we're busy. We don't have, yes, you do. If I'm on a plane every week and I take the time to do this, you do too. You do, because I'm usually fighting TSA or, cold air on the plane or whatever it is. You can do it. And then think about, from the hat of the audience, who's receiving it, what kind of information am I giving to Russ? Is it factual information? Is it FOIL requestable information? Or does he just want to know what time the communication workshop is because he can't remember? And that I would put right in the subject line. Communication classes at 10 a.m. DA. Again, email was just made to just quickly give information. So if you think about it, every audience that you may have an interaction with is different. You would send a different kind of email to each one of these. I know, because I worked here 5 years. And what I would say to somebody, Tim Lee at the time, or a program manager, is different than when I would be working with Dave Baggett or Kevin out in the field. I would send them such short emails because I know they're always near traffic, wearing safety gear, looking at their phone or their iPad. So if you think about it, one size email really does not fit all. Load your content with protein, exactly what they need to know. Many times we'll just load with thought bubbles, and we don't know what to do with that. Like, we, the receiver, we don't know what to do with all your thought bubbles. You purged them on us. I guess we could do reply and then in a different color font, da-da-da-da-da, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba, but that was a meeting. That should have been a walk-by or a meeting. I see you laughing, because you know it's true. That should have been a walk-by or a meeting instead of an email, da-da-da, unless it's something you've got to factually have in writing. That I understand. So it's never one size fits all, but I want you to think about when you're sending an email, it should be a good piece of fish, a little bit of fiber, and a veggie or a carb, a potato, not Thanksgiving dinner all in one. We as humans, we cannot handle that level of information anymore, and here's the reason why. Social media has shortened our brain attention span. How many of us go on Twitter, IG, whatever it is, we read headlines, Yahoo headlines, whatever it is. We no longer read 3 columns in a newspaper. We now just look on our phones, we get the headline, we read 2 lines. If we like it, we'll keep reading. If it doesn't fit our narrative, we don't. We find an article that does. We've all short-lined our ability to take a lot of information. And then bring COVID into that, now we're all annoyed. Because now you're sending me this long email and I don't even like you. I don't like you because I just survived COVID. And I'm not over that yet. I mean, this is literally what the University of Alabama at Birmingham is finding out. And if you think, it's funny, you can laugh at it, but it's funny, we're all just walking around, so in a parking lot, how annoyed are you? Like, we're just annoyed. We're not there yet. We still have to level off. So think about that. Please avoid carbs in your email and just give a nice piece of fish. Maybe with 1 line of a carb and 1 line, you know, of like a veggie. Here's the perfect email. I'll read it to you. It's to Michael, Francis, Lygia, and Brooke. I'm telling them in the subject line, 2 asterisks, new date, RE Paces Ferry detour change, December 3rd through the 14th. Now this is bogus, because obviously I'm not talking about anything. But right away, they know what I'm coming to them for. There is no surprise here. To which I say Michael, because that's the most important word in the world to him. I spoke with Lygia yesterday regarding the Paces Ferry detour change. Now she knows I told him, so I've taken that off of her list. She and Brooke will meet with Mary DeRosa at Carpenter Optical today. So the business is made aware of the impact of the change in their exit lane. I'm thinking like coming out of their store, because there's going to be a detour. Donna Adamo. Who, what, where, when, why? That's simple. There's no, hey Michael, it was good to see you earlier today. How are you? How about Mississippi? Wow, they had a great weekend. Hey, by the way, by now, somebody's already come in his office and interrupted him. So he's gotten out of his email, because I always said to Hudge, when someone comes to you for information, they have chosen you. If I come to Brooke or Diane for information, I have chosen them. And Diane knows exactly how I would walk over her desk. Di, I am so lost today. I just want to cry, I don't know what I'm doing.
I get it.
Right? And the bottom line is, step away from the computer. When someone comes to you, step away from the computer and give them your attention. They've chosen you. They could have gone to Jane. They could have gone to Michael, Brooke. They chose you, Diane. And she does a great job of stepping away from the computer. It's a respect thing. I have a 1.5-year-old granddaughter. She's a girl, but she thinks she's a boy. And she's being raised by millennials. And they are very free. My son and his wife are very free. And they just let her go to the end of the driveway, where I know a car is going to run her over, somebody's going to steal her, plane is going to fall out of the sky, whatever it is. Well, last week she brought me literally she brought me a pebble. She's 1.5. And she like walked over, she handed it to me. And I got right down and I looked at it and I made it the best pebble in the world. To which my son said, Mom, you got to stop doing that, because then she expects us to do it. Like, you don't have to make, he said, you don't have to make everything so big. Like, it doesn't have to be so big. You give her all your attention, you give the other 2 girls all your attention, and they expect it for us, and like, we're busy millennials. Here's where I differ. A 1.5-year-old, a 4 and a 6-year-old, they own nothing in the world. All she owned in that moment was a pebble. And she chose me, not her parents. She chose me. The point being, when someone comes to you, it is a respect gift. Step away, help them get to the point, but know that they've chosen you. So when it comes to your email, putting a person's first name and your last name and the who, what, where, when, and why in 3 sentences or less, whenever possible, and I know most of y'all won't do that, I'm just here to tell you what works. It will not only improve your life, but on bigger issues, it will make you go over to someone's desk and work through an issue or a problem. I don't know what your role is right now, Dan. I'm going to use you because I know you. Coming over to Diane when she asked you for something 2 days ago, and she asked you for it, she should not have to ask. It's a respect thing. It's a communication thing. And that's where I'm saying when you look at the 4 levels of communication personalities, if you're the person who blows a lot of things off, and I don't know that you are, I'm saying if you are, it makes it so difficult for a colleague to like and respect you back. And maybe you don't care. I don't know. But to make the Cobb County Department of Transportation machine roll and move, it's important when someone comes to you for information that you gift them that information efficiently. I think one of the biggest lessons it's important to learn in email is once you put it out there, you don't get to say how someone feels about it. You say something in a meeting that hurts somebody's feeling, you don't get to say, that's not what I meant. It doesn't matter if you meant it or not. Once you put it out there, you don't get to say how someone took it. And that includes your teenagers and your spouse. So err on the side of how do they see me right now, and are they in the space to take in this communicative information? And don't type at me in that tone means stop with the all caps. Unless you won the lottery and you're giving your notice, then I guess everybody would understand. And the biggest thing, and people still say this to me to this day from 10 years ago, after the 3rd email, dudes, if you haven't fixed the problem, get up, get in your car, go drive to the project, go visit the person, go sit with them, fix the problem. There should never be a 4th, 5th, 6th email string. People say, what do we do with these strings? Strings are an inefficient line of communication. It's like running to the store and you forgot something, you got to run back later. And then you go, oh shoot, I forgot this, I got to go back later. You go with a list, like just think it through. After the 3rd email, no, not efficient anymore. I'm going to walk over to her desk and we're going to have a conversation. A nice, educating, motivating, and inspiring conversation. Again, your email is subject to open records. I have seen this happen a few times. I've had a few emails regarding communication of stakeholders be foiled. Not anything I did wrong, just it was part of the process, whatever was going on with the project. I honestly don't know. But it's something for all of you to think about. If you do not want it on the cover of the New York Times, don't put it in print. Just don't. You don't know how somebody's going to receive it. We don't want to be that guy. We don't want to be that girl. Just keep it light and easy. Skill number 4, how to have the most effective meeting in the world. Number 1, is this really a meeting or can this be an email? Because if it can be an email with 3 lines, that's what we're going to do. But if we decide we do need an email, determine ahead of time, again, you have to do the work. What do I need to get out of this meeting? Because you know how we'll have an hour-long meeting and a lot of it's bogus time. That could be downtime that we need sitting in our cubes or going and talking to a colleague about something else. So think about, what is it I need to get out of this meeting? Is it a call to action? Is it, do I need ideas? Or do I need a decision? And if any of the above, the key to the best meeting in the world is you got to invite the right people. Not just invite all the people, but the right people who are going to help you, number 2, because you decided number 1. And that meeting, even the best in the world, 15 to 30 minutes. Unless you work at an academic university. The longer, the better. Right. If you've ever worked at it, you know it's got to be 2 hours for a meeting that could have taken place in 5 minutes. So the most effective, again, the word is effective, is you, the meeting holder, have to do the work. What do I want to accomplish? Who are the right people to be at this meeting to help me accomplish it? And that does not mean that's the people who are going to be yes people. It's who are the right people that are going to help us move this program forward in this meeting, and you can accomplish that in 15 to 30 minutes, especially if you lay out your email where they know in the subject line exactly what the meeting is about. Skill number 5, navigating conflict. So I always say conflict is an opportunity to get to know somebody better and make it about the problem, not about the person. So if I didn't like the way that someone said something to me, I have to try my best not to take it personally, but to realize they're really passionate about what this issue is over on Terrell Mill Road, and they've been working on this project for 2 years. I'm not going to take it personally, but we do have a little bit of conflict of how we're going to handle the stakeholder outreach. So I need to get to know James a little better to understand where he's coming from, because I'm probably not listening really well. And if you think about our listening skills, they're extremely, extremely poor. If you think about going to the Atlanta airport, who's been there? You can hear a child, a mother, the overhead talking person, the gate person, friends talking, your cell phone, the conversation on your cell phone, music. Our ears can hear layers of things, but we can only talk one-dimensional. So if you think about when we're having orange shirt, what's your name? Adrian. He came in here earlier, very friendly, ray of sunshine personality. So if Adrian and I are having a conversation, it's important for me to make it about the problem that Adrian and I are having, not about Adrian. You're having a problem with your spouse or your teenager, communicative-wise, make it about the problem, because you're a team together trying to solve this problem instead of attacking that person. And that goes for colleagues too. And it's very hard to do, and it's a skill that we need to learn. So what I've tried to do is give you 3 ways to open up that conversation. Number 1, Michael, I can see why you feel that way. Tell me more. You have to open 2 ears. You could say, Drew, we both are convicted to fix this problem. Where do we start? 3, you have every right to be concerned. Help me understand better. Be humble. That's how you navigate conflict, whether it's with a teenager, a spouse, or a citizen. So how to resolve it? Well, what is the real root cause of the problem Adrian and I were having? Because he's a nice guy, I'm a nice gal, like it's not us, we're cool. What's in the middle of that 5th and 6th person that's preventing us from handling the conflict? Making it about the problem, listening to understand, help me understand, and then finding a solution that we both have received, and then we got to move on. Drop the mic, move on. So now we're going to talk about football, and this is, for me, the funnest part of communications, and then we're going to open the floor at 11:30, and everybody can grab some chow. Football, to me, has been very important in understanding communications. First of all, I love sports. How many here love sports? Do you have a favorite team? I'm right there with you. How so? Well, communication is not complete until the message you're trying to give someone has been received and understood. It's not enough to just say, I sent the email, I checked that box, I told you. That doesn't mean the person read it, understood it, or even wanted it. So you checking off a box, I see you laughing. You checking, I don't even know what you do, but you checking off a box is not enough to have communication happen. That's why emails are so poor in trying to move Cobb, DOT, or any company or organization forward and have an even greater communicative program. Why so? If you think of your message, all right, let's say Karen and I are having a conversation about stakeholder outreach in Smyrna. The football is that message. If you think about every time Karen and I have a conversation, there's a lot that gets in the way. Noise out in the field, cell phones ringing, I'm hungry, she's got to blow her nose, her kid's calling her, you know, my son wants to know, can I come out next weekend? Janice just sent me an email and I got to get something to her. All this stuff is going on while we're trying to talk about public outreach to Smyrna. So if that message to Smyrna is the football, there's a lot of interference, just like football, that gets in the way of Karen catching my message. Think about that when you're standing at home with your teenager. There's a lot that teenagers have to deal with today. Social media, pressure, IG, Twitter, Chat GPT now, Snapchat, I call it Snappy. all this kind of stuff and more to come that's clouding their brain while you're trying to tell them something about, could you please just put your seatbelt on and really stop at the stop sign that's there for a good reason in the four-way stop. Pretty please? They've got all this other stuff going on, just like a citizen when you're talking to them. So it's important that when I'm talking to Karen, I catch her at the moment that she can receive this precision pass. Like Tom Brady going to Gronk. I don't like him either, but he was good at what he did, okay? So if you think of your message in the future as a football, I want you to think about all the perceptions, the fifth and sixth person, and all the interruptions in life that get in the way of the very message that you are trying to deliver. So if we take ourselves back to 2012, for those of you who may or may not remember this catch, there's been a few since. Brooke is shaking his head. I remember it. What's most interesting about this catch, this is how people receive information. But look what happened. Two refs saw it completely different. One called it a touchdown, and one called it an interference. So if I send a message to 5 of you in this room, 1 or 2 of you may catch it, and the rest of you just may not be in the headspace. You may be too busy. Maybe it went to junk spam. Maybe you didn't understand my subject line, or if you weren't expecting it, oh, she must have sent it by accident. It wasn't for me. This is why I always say to people, did they catch the football? When you and I had that conversation, did you catch my vibe? Did you catch my football? And that applies at home as well and with friends. Did they catch the football? They look a little confused. Maybe I need to pass it one more time. So until your message is received and clearly understood, communication, my friends, has not taken place. And if you think back to all the conversations you've had where maybe you've said, I know I told them, yes I did, no you didn't, yes I did, no I know, honey, I know, and now we're starting with the fine conversation, right? That's where we can improve as human beings, not only in our emails, but in our project teams, when we work with citizens, and when we work with each other. Are you all going to change this in a day? No, you're not. Are you all going to do any of this? Probably not. But some of you will take with you what is important to you, and if you impose some of these skills, I promise you it will improve your way of communicating and your relationships. When you leave here today, when we're done in 5 minutes and we eat and we talk about any issues you may have, I want you to think about how much of this bar is your system. Do you care or don't you? Like, do you want to be a better steward of words and communication? Do you want to be the go-to person that people trust and build a trust bridge with and come to? Do you want to do shorter emails that are more effective? So then think about what and how you communicate. When you leave here today, most of you will only have heard this amount of what I said. There's a number attached to it. I'm going to show you that in a moment. And all of you will only remember this little square, this little triangle. And you will only take away what was important to you. And what was important to you is going to be different than what's important to you, than you, than you. Each of you will take away a little bit of something. But I know that going in. According to the Moravian complex, Abraham Moravian was an engineer who realized we don't communicate well at all. He went back to school. He got a PhD in psychology and communications. He did a lot of research, and this is what it showed. When all of you leave here today, you'll only remember 7% of what I talked about. And that 7% will only pertain to you, your personality, and your lifestyle. You will remember 38%, hey, you know, Donna had Janice come up and we laughed at a couple of things and she used football. Hey, did you catch the football? She had some good things to say. You know, it's not rocket science. Some of it I know, some of it I don't, but you know what? She had some good points. She's passionate about what she does. You know, there are ways I can take responsibility and improve. But 55% of you will remember my face and my body language as I will remember yours. I know who is smiling. I know who doesn't want to be here. I know who's nodded their head. I know who's annoyed. That is how you present yourself at life, too. Think about that. That is who your colleagues have to, what I'm looking at is what they're looking at. So it's important, I think, that we're all good stewards of interpersonal relationships and communications, how we think about emails, how we think about meetings, how we think about moving our program upward and forward. And again, that 55% face and body language is never more present than when all of you who've had children, or maybe you've gotten engaged, or maybe you've had a parent pass, some of those life moments, you know, maybe you won the national championship. Do you remember the words you said? No. You just remember the moment. You remember the look on someone's face when she said yes. Or when they said, Mom, I got into the college. Like, you remember those moments. Because body language is a language. Watch yours. Because I've had the privilege of watching yours. And as we do this is the final slide before we go to Q&A. You guys can grab some chow. These are some thoughts that I just thought, having worked here, that I think are important. And that communications is a business skill and transportation is a business. And I hope you all think about leveling up. I hope you think about, hey, what is my style? I'm going to go back into this and really read it and see who am I. And if not, I'm going to go ask somebody that I know is going to tell me the truth. Is this a meeting or an email? I think all of you will remember that. Is this really going to, what am I going to do here? Conflicts and opportunity, and did they catch the football? Because you should know by the look on somebody's face if they didn't catch the football. And from that, I want everybody to grab a drink, grab something to eat, and then let's sit and chat if you have any questions of how we can be better stewards at communications. Up and at 'em, and those cookies were hot when she brought them in this